What does Good Friday say to us? Good Friday calls us to confront suffering and wrongdoing. It calls to us to look at the parts of ourselves we usually don't want to look at. Our greed, our selfishness, our conceit, our capacity to betray. We can be Judas or Peter, to walk away as the disciples abandoned Jesus. It calls us to reckon with our deceit and self-deception, our participation in or looking away from injustice, the ways in which we inflict pain. It's hard to look at these parts of ourselves. It's confronting, it's unsettling, it's bleak. We'd rather pretend we're not like that. We'd rather point to the fault in others than accept that it lies within ourselves. But the truth is, we are like that. In the aftermath of the March 15 mosque attacks, Jacinda Ardern said, "This is not us." And we knew what she meant. All of us saw the horror of the attack, and none of us stood with the attacker. And yet, the capacity to cause that kind of suffering is present in us. It is us. We might not act in such an extreme way or carry out such atrocities, but we live in homes, communities, in a country, in a world where suffering is manifest. If we're looking for large-scale examples, we don't have to look far. Think of the Ukraine and the Middle East. Think of the climate crisis, the degradation of our natural world, the loss of creatures and habitats. The image on the billboard outside St. Matthew's during Lent graphically captures this. But closer to home, think of those living in poverty, the homeless, our terrible child abuse problem, the suffering of generations of Māori as we and successive governments have failed to honour Te Tiriti. And at a personal level, we will know our own suffering and the suffering we have caused others. The point of Good Friday is that suffering is present in the world. We inflict suffering and we endure it. We know suffering, the world knows suffering, Jesus knew suffering. But so often we pretend it doesn't exist. We skip away from really seeing it. Good Friday calls on us to consider our many failures to recognise suffering and respond to it, and our capacity to cause suffering, the big and small ways we either participate in or tolerate injustice, our selfishness, the pain we inflict on others. We can see the markers of evil which led to Jesus' suffering, and Good Friday calls us to see the parallel markers in our own lives and in our world. If we really look, we will be brought to silence, brought to our knees. We will weep for our own suffering and the world's suffering. We will sit helpless in the midst of it. And as Glenn Cardy said so eloquently in a post this week, Good Friday is a day for sitting with pain, not trying to solve it, escape it, or explain it. Sitting with emptiness, sitting without trying to conjure hope, a time for sitting in company with all who through the ages have known the really bad. It's a time to sit, a time for silence.